Good morning, everyone. Today is looking to be one of the first substantial harvests of the 2021 garden season here in my Zone 6A Ohio garden. Now, I've been picking a few things here and there, but we just got a decent amount of rain, it's warmed up a little, and everything's kind of ripening at once. So I thought I would bring you all along with me for the harvest today. Now, the very first thing I'm going to start with is this gorgeous purple sprouting broccoli. This is a variety called Burgundy, and this is the only purple sprouting broccoli that I have ever had success with in my garden. This stuff is very tender and sweet, and the great thing about sprouting broccolis is that the entire length of the stem stays sweet and tender as well. Plus, once I harvest this, as long as the weather stays decently cool and it gets enough moisture, this will continue to put on sprouts for a long time. Now, with sprouting broccoli, unlike heading broccoli, you want to wait till this stem gets a little longer. They can be harvested when they're shorter, but this is going to give you more edible portion per harvest. And in general, I just snip these off fairly close to where that stem comes out of the main stem of the plant. Then I've got one lone green sprouting broccoli here. This is Montebello broccoli. And you can see how this forms a little bit more of a substantial head, but this one will start to put out a lot of side sprouts after the initial harvest of this head. And same thing, really continues to pump out the sprouts much longer into the season than many of the other broccolis I've grown. Tucked in here, I have some mini romaine lettuce. This is a variety called Tendita. I've actually already harvested all of my favorite, which is Winter Density, but this is looking to be a really nice variety too. More lettuce over here. As you can imagine, this time of year, there's a lot of leafy greens coming out of the garden, but this in particular is a series that I have fallen in love with. This is the EazyLeaf Lettuce series. And if you like the Salanova series from Johnny's, you'll probably really like these too. And there's a whole assortment of reds and greens in this series. The specific varieties I have planted in here are Roan, Ezrilla, Brentwood, and Bellevue. But what is so neat about these is they are one-cut lettuces. So you can either harvest them whole as baby heads, or you can do one cut at the base of the plant and basically have a pre-made salad, because all of these individual leaves just fall apart right on into your bowl or on your plate. And over here I've got the very last of the season's spinach. This was a late planting and a few of these are already starting to bolt. So I'm going to get these out of here while it's still relatively cool before they all bolt. Spinach can be harvested anytime after the leaf reaches the size that you want to eat it at. So from baby leaf stage to giant monster leaf stage. Just snip off the individual leaves and you can get a continual harvest off your spinach as long as the weather stays relatively cool. And one of the garden favorites this time of year, strawberries. Now, we've already done 2 pickings of this patch and there's a lot more in here still to ripen. But at this point in the year, the chipmunks have figured out that these are here, unfortunately, and they are leaving little nibble marks in a lot of the berries. So that is a problem I'm going to have to figure out for next year. We've never had quite this much trouble with chipmunks before. Unfortunately, they seem to prefer my Charlotte strawberries to any of the other varieties, which is usually an indicator of good flavor. I've noticed that the bugs and the critters tend to like the things that taste the best or have the highest sugars, but they've definitely done a number on these. But we have been able to pick quite a lot, and I think we'll still get some good fruit off of another picking before the season wraps up. And here I've got collards, and back behind me, kale, both of which I've been able to harvest for about a month and a half now, and these were spring planted. This is a new variety called Top Chop, and you can see it just makes a really nice big leaf, as most collards do. And over here, this green kale is Oldenbohr, and this purple kale is a new one called Sunbohr. Now, things like collards and kale, again, can be harvested at any time, and these will sprout out and grow new leaves in the center of the plant. But I generally just go in and cut the stem from just a few inches from the base of the plant. You can see this is already starting to put new growth in the center here. And the same with kale. I just cut them off an inch or so from the base. And these will continue to put on new growth in the center of the plant. And here I've got an overwintered onion. This one is Winteria, and it's a little early. It'll be a couple more weeks before the greens on these start to die back. But I am almost out of last year's onions, so I'm gonna pick this guy today and use him fresh. And back here in the main garden, there are a lot more greens going on. We got bronze beauty lettuce, green ice lettuce, and salad bowl lettuce. It's gonna be salads for days in our household. And with these cut and come again type lettuces, these can be harvested anytime from baby leaf stage up to this full head stage. And if they are a cut and come again type lettuce, if you cut them off and leave an inch or two above that root, these will actually sprout back and continue to grow. Now with your more heading types like romaines and butterheads, again, you could technically cut them at any stage, but for best yields, you're going to cut them when that head is plump and filled out and a little firm to the touch. Now, again, the size will depend a bit on the variety you're growing. This is that same Tendita again, it's a mini romaine. If you're growing a full-headed romaine, it'll get much bigger. But the main thing that you are looking for is for that head to be filled out and firm. Here's a great example. This is Winter Density. And you can see the difference in head shape, but if you were to squeeze that, you can feel how densely filled out that is. And with these head lettuces, you just want to cut them off right at the base of the plant. Now over here, I've got more endive, and this is more of a frisee leaf type. This is my old favorite benefine, and over here, I've got one called rhodos. And these can really be picked anytime you like, but I generally wait till they form a nice dense head, like so. Here is one of my all-time favorites. This is Tiara Cabbage, and this one is done. Now cabbage can be a smidge tricky at times to tell when it is ready. Tiara is a mini or a personal size cabbage, so the heads are only going to get about this big. It'll depend a little on how densely you plant them, but that's a good average. But you can really tell because when you squeeze that head, it's hard. You can tell that is completely filled out and firm inside. We've got some really lovely dill over here. You're gonna get sick of me saying this, but dill, same thing. You can harvest any time. You will get better flavor from the greens if you harvest them before they go to flower. That goes for anything that you're harvesting for the greens. But dill can also be allowed to go to flower and set seed, and then you can use those seeds for seasoning as well. And this dill will continue to sprout out and grow more. So same thing, I just cut it a few inches from the base of the plant. And over here, this is very exciting. We've got sugar snap peas coming on. This is a variety called Sugar Ann. It's more of a dwarf type of plant. And sugar snap peas are best harvested once that pod has become fairly plump, but before the peas inside really start to get big. This is when your pod is still gonna be really nice and tender and sweet. And over here, we've got my favorite, Kohlrabi. Now the size at which you harvest kohlrabi will depend a little on the variety. Mainly you want to wait till that bulb has sized up. The variety that I have here is Sweetie Mix, and they're best harvested at about softball size. But you can also get giant kohlrabi like Cossack or Super Smells, or there's a couple different ones that will get this big and still be sweet and tender. Those could be harvested at softball size, but you can let them get huge as well. And with kohlrabi, I typically just pull them out root and all. And then I just twist that root ball off. Like that. Tis the season for garlic scapes as well. If you are growing hardneck garlic planted last fall, it's probably about time to be cutting off your scapes. And these are what will turn into the flowering portion of the garlic. These are delicious to eat if you cut them when they're young and tender. And cutting them helps your garlic divert energy from this flower formation into further maturing its bulb. So you will get bigger, better bulbs if you cut off your scapes. And you don't have to be super particular when doing this. Just follow the scape down to about the base of the plant and snip it off. The very first cauliflower are ready to harvest too. I talked a little bit last year about these sprouting types, but I am really starting to love these. They seem to be easier to grow here in my area, and I love this super early maturity. As you can see, my next earliest full heading type cauliflower is probably another couple weeks out from being ready to pick, and these guys are ready right now. Now this particular variety is Song, and unlike a typical heading cauliflower, these make stems, kind of like that sprouting broccoli that I showed you earlier. And so these are ready to harvest anytime after that stem reaches a substantial length. And I just cut these near the base of the stems. Well, this about wraps up the harvest for today, but hopefully it's just the start of many great harvests to come. And be sure to drop a line in the comments below. What are you picking out of your garden this week? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.